Mecca is missing. The damage report. The outcome of the 5 torpedoes. The outcome of the 5 torpedoes. Torpedo 1. There is no eyewitness testimony for Mecca as the Muslim holy city. Direct hit. Torpedo 2. There is no archaeological evidence from the 7th century for Mecca as the Muslim holy city. Another direct hit. Torpedo 3. There are no written sources from the 7th century for Mecca as the Muslim holy city. Another direct hit. Torpedo 4. There is no evidence from the Quran that Mecca was the Muslim holy city. Instead, the Quran suggests that it was actually hundreds of kilometers to the north. Another direct hit. And finally, Torpedo 5. There is no geographical evidence that Mecca was the Muslim holy city. Another direct hit. So what's the bottom line? All 5 torpedoes score direct hits. There is no evidence from the 7th century to support Mecca as the Muslim holy city. Let's look at a hypothesis that does explain the evidence. So where was the Arab holy site? The 5 torpedoes confirm that Mecca was not the 7th century Arab holy city. So where was it? The clues lie in the standard Islamic narrative itself. Firstly, the Sin says that Abraham built the holy house. But Abraham has been intimately connected with the Temple Mount of Jerusalem for thousands of years. So it's much more likely that this holy house, quote unquote, refers to a sanctuary in Jerusalem. Also, the standard Islamic narrative says that the Dome of the Rock commemorates the Miraj. This refers to the night journey that Muhammad took from Mecca to Jerusalem to the heavens and back. It was built by Abdul Malik in AD 691 at great expense, with Quranic verses inscribed on the inner arcades. But there is no mention of any Miraj. As noted, there are Quranic verses inscribed on the inner arcades, but the one Quran verse that does mention the Miraj is not quoted. That's Quran chapter 17 verse 1. So what do the inscriptions talk about? They talk about Jesus. They emphasize that he is only a messenger and not the Son of God. Even the reference to, quote, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, unquote, makes more sense when read, quote, the praised one, that is Jesus, is but a messenger of Allah. So why go to all of this trouble if the real holy house was more than 1,000 kilometers away in Mecca? The true pilgrimage. The standard Islamic narrative requires a pilgrimage to Makkah or Bakka, going around a Kaaba, that is a cube, 7 times, going between Mount Marwa and Mount Safa, and sacrificing animals. But there is no evidence that any of this happened at Mecca in Saudi Arabia in the 7th century. There is, however, good attestation that these all happened at Jerusalem. A. Psalm 84 mentions pilgrims going through the valley of Bakka on the way to the Temple Mount to worship. B. The Mishnah Sukkah Volume 4 tells of Jews circumambulating the altar 7 times during the Feast of Tabernacles. This area included the Holy of Holies, which was a cube or Kaaba. Animal sacrifices were done every day in the temple. And C. The word Marwa is the Arabic version of Moriah, that is the Temple Mount. Across the Kidron Valley from the Temple Mount we can see Mount Scopus. The 1st century Jewish historian Josephus calls this Mount Safa, which is phonetically the same as Safa. So the evidence suggests that the standard Islamic narrative borrowed the Hajj elements from pre-existing practices involving Jerusalem. This suggests that the Arabs were originally going to Jerusalem for pilgrimage, and not to Mecca. Consistent with the evidence. So we have all of the major aspects of the Hajj to Mecca being practiced hundreds of years earlier in Jerusalem. The probabilities that these same or highly similar practices just happen to originate at Mecca without any preceding influence is simply too small to be of significance. Jerusalem is in the right place with the right environment, involving the right people, and is consistent with the Quran. It is well watered and well known by surrounding peoples. There is archaeological evidence for Jerusalem being continually inhabited from the 1st millennium BC. And Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all trace their lineage to Abraham, who sacrificed Isaac on Mount Moriah in the area which would later become Jerusalem. In this sense, it could be regarded as the, quote, mother of all cities, unquote. 7th century written sources confirm that Jerusalem was inhabited both before, during, and after the 7th century. So it is much more likely that the original holy place for the Arabs of the 7th century was Jerusalem. While this is a hypothesis, it is consistent with the evidence of the 5 torpedoes.